Welcome everyone. This is the Masterclass. My name is Patricknazareth. I have around 30 years of teaching experience and I would like to help dispel your doubts should you have any. Today we look at the poem Legend of the Northland written by the poetess Phoebe Cary. She was born on September the 4th, 1824 near Cincinnati in the state of Ohio in the USA. She died on July the 31st, 1871 at Newport on Rhode Island. She was an active member of the women's rights movement. She wrote for Harper's, The Atlantic Monthly, as well as other periodicals. She lived along with her sister Alice, who was more famous in her lifetime. Alice was an invalid and Phoebe looked after her for most of her life. They died 5 months apart. First Alice passed away, then Phoebe. Away, away in the Northland, where the hours of the day are few, and nights are so long in winter that they cannot sleep them through. The poetess immediately establishes the setting of the poem. It's in the north, a place where the weather is extreme, the days are short and the nights are very, very long. In fact, they are so long that no one can sleep throughout the night. Where they harness the swift reindeer to the sledges when it snows, and the children look like bear's cubs in their funny furry clothes. How do they move in such a hostile environment when it snows? They attach reindeer to sleighs and then they travel across the country. The children have to dress very warm. They are usually dressed in furs, so they look for all the world like they are children of animals, like say the bear. They tell them a curious story. I don't believe it's true, and yet you may learn a lesson if I tell the tale to you. The poetess goes on to say that in this place the children are told the story to help them learn about good and bad, to learn moral values. She does not know whether the story is true or not, but she is going to tell it to us, and hopefully we shall learn something from it. Once, when the good Saint Peter lived in the world below and walked about it, preaching just as he did, you know. Saint Peter comes from the Bible. This is after the death of Jesus Christ. Saint Peter went around everywhere preaching the word of God and converting people to Christianity. The story is of a time when Saint Peter was alive and preaching and teaching the word of God all over. He came to the door of a cottage in traveling round the earth, where a little woman was making cakes and baking them on the hearth. So Saint Peter comes to this cottage. What does he see there? There is a woman who was making cakes, baking them over the fireplace in her house. And being faint with fasting, for the day was almost done, he asked her from a store of cakes to give him a single one. Now Saint Peter must have been walking from place to place, preaching to people about God, but he had not eaten. So it was the end of the day, he was feeling hungry. He requested the woman to let him have a small cake in order that he might eat. So she made a very little cake, but as it baking lay, she looked at it and thought it seemed too large to give away. The woman listened to him, and instead of giving him a cake from those that she had already baked, she set out to make him a very small one. But as that cake began to bake, as that cake began to cook, she thought it was too large, and she felt that she should not give this to Saint Peter, she should keep it for herself. Therefore she needed another, and still a smaller one, but it looked, when she turned it over, as large as the first had done. So she took less dough and she baked an even smaller cake. But while the cake was cooking, miraculously, it seemed to be as big as the previous one. Then she took a tiny scrap of dough and rolled it flat and baked it thin as a wafer, but she couldn't part with that. The lady then took as less dough as she possibly could, and she rolled it flat. She made it as thin as she could, almost like a biscuit. And even that, when it was cooked, she felt she would not like to give it to Saint Peter. For she said, My cakes that seem too small when I eat of them myself are yet too large to give away, so she put them on the shelf. The lady is thinking to herself, when I am eating these cakes, they seem to me very small. Perhaps my hunger is not satisfied, but at the thought of giving them away, no, they are too large to be given away. So I will take them and I will keep them on my shelf. Then good Saint Peter grew angry, for he was hungry and faint, and surely such a woman was enough to provoke a saint. So Saint Peter got very angry. He was waiting, remember, for his food, and this woman had cooked 2 cakes for him, plus the thinnest sort of cake that she could do, and yet she was not kind enough to give one to him also. And the poetess suggests that such a woman would make anybody, even a saint, angry. And he said, "You are far too selfish to dwell in a human form, to have both food and shelter and fire to keep you warm." Saint Peter speaks to this lady and he tells her that she is extremely selfish. She only thinks of herself. She is not fit to be a human. As a human being, she has enough food to eat. She lives in a cottage and she has a fire that would keep her warm. But the lady does not appreciate what she has. "Now you shall build as the birds do, and shall get your scanty food by boring and boring and boring all day in the hard dry wood." So Saint Peter, in a manner of speaking, curses the lady and he tells her, "You do not appreciate what you have, so now you shall live as birds do." What do birds do? They build what little shelter they have out of the small twigs and branches that they find, and the whole day they work extremely hard looking for their food. Then up she went through the chimney, never speaking a word, and out of the top flew a woodpecker, for she was changed to a bird. When Saint Peter said these words to her, she went to the chimney, she went straight through the chimney, and as she exited the chimney out of the top of the cottage, she had been changed into a bird. What bird has she been changed into? She had been changed into a woodpecker. She had a scarlet cap on her head, and that was left the same, but all the rest of her clothes were burned, black as a coal in the flame. Here we are told that this lady was wearing a red cap. That red cap was left untouched, but all her other clothes was burnt in the fireplace, as black as coal. And every country schoolboy has seen her in the wood, where she lives in the trees till this very day, boring and boring for food. So now if you are from the place where Phoebe Cary was from, and some other places also, you would have seen a woodpecker. What color is the woodpecker? The woodpecker is completely black, and on its head it's got a streak of red. So remember, the lady had a scarlet cap, so that red is there, and the rest of the woodpecker's body, since the lady's clothes were burned black, the rest of the woodpecker's body is black. What are the themes that run through the poem then? The most obvious one, generosity and greed. Shouldn't you be generous if you have more than other people? Or should you be greedy? Should you be selfish? Should you not want to share? What sort of person would you like to be? To help people who have less than you? Or to keep away from those sort of people and not offer any help whatsoever? The poetess suggests that if you were to be a selfish individual, sooner or later, God will judge you. He will ask you, did you help people who needed your help? And when you answer no, He will find a way to punish you, just like Saint Peter punished the lady by turning her into a bird, the woodpecker. That's the end of the poem there for you. I do hope I have been able to help. If I have, do remember to like, subscribe and share. Remember, there might be others out there who would need our help. Thank you for watching.